The jungle air at Dobodura airfield was thick and heavy, a damp blanket under the New Guinea sun. On the morning of August 17, 1943, Technical Sergeant James McKenna found a moment of shade under the left wing of a P-38 Lightning. His eyes were fixed on the young man climbing into the cockpit. Lieutenant Robert Hayes was just 23, with only 6 combat missions to his name and not a single enemy plane to his credit. At that very moment, a formation of 18 Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters was slicing through the skies, sent to intercept the morning patrol. Hayes was flying straight into their teeth. McKenna, a mechanic who knew the P-38 inside and out, felt a familiar dread. He knew the brutal truth every American pilot in the Pacific was learning. The P-38 was a powerful twin-engine beast, dominant in a straight-line dive, but it had one fatal flaw. In a turning fight, it was a death trap. The Japanese Zero was lighter, a nimble predator that could complete a full horizontal turn in half the time it took a P-38. American command drilled a single doctrine into their pilots: never turn with a Zero. Use your speed, dive from altitude, fire a quick burst and climb away. It was a hit-and-run strategy, but Hayes had tried that 5 times. It hadn't worked. The Japanese pilots were too experienced. They would bait the Americans, trick them into that fatal turning engagement, cut inside their radius, and shoot them down from behind. The statistics were grim. In just 6 weeks, the 5th Air Force had lost 37 P-38s. Most were victims of a turning fight they could never win. The official reports coldly listed the cause as pilot error. But McKenna, who had watched too many young men climb into their cockpits with confidence only to never return, knew better. The problem wasn't the pilots, it was the aircraft itself. His suspicion centered on the control cables. The system that ran the ailerons, the surfaces that make the plane roll, traveled through the P-38's long twin booms. McKenna had discovered a tiny, almost imperceptible amount of slack in those cables, maybe 3/8 of an inch. At high speed, it was irrelevant. But in the slow, hard turns of a dogfight, that fractional delay between the pilot jerking the stick and the plane actually responding was the difference between life and death. He had raised the issue with the engineering officer months before, only to be told the slack was within the factory's tolerances. Modifying the system was strictly forbidden, a violation that would void the aircraft's warranty and require approval from Lockheed, a company 7,000 miles away in California. It was a bureaucratic death sentence for pilots. So as Hayes prepared for his mission, McKenna made a decision that could end his own career, or even land him in prison. Using a 6-inch piece of high-tensile piano wire salvaged from a wrecked aircraft, he fashioned a crude Z-shaped tensioner. Working alone in the quiet of the night, his hands slick with sweat and grease, he installed it on the aileron cable of Hayes's P-38. The illegal modification took just 8 minutes and added a mere 0.4 of a pound of tension, completely eliminating the deadly slack. No inspector noticed. McKenna said nothing. He simply stood and watched as Hayes taxied down the runway, his modified P-38 climbing into the sky and disappearing toward a fight with 18 of Japan's best. What happened in the next 17 minutes would fundamentally alter the air war in the Pacific. McKenna's desperation was born from terrible experience. He remembered Lieutenant David Chen, a friendly pilot from Sacramento, who had barely survived an encounter where a Zero got inside his turn. Chen had complained that his plane felt slow to respond, like it was fighting him. He was killed 3 weeks later in a different P-38, caught in the same kind of turning engagement. Then there was Captain William Morrison, an experienced ace with 11 kills. His wingman reported watching Morrison's P-38 struggle to respond during an evasive maneuver, its controls seeming mushy before the Zeros shot him down. The official report, again, said pilot error. But the mechanics on the ground knew something was wrong. By mid-August, McKenna had personally known 17 pilots who had died this way. He had signed off on their maintenance logs, watched them take off, and learned which ones wouldn't be returning. They all told the same story: a slight lag, a hesitation in the controls. Most assumed it was just the nature of the heavy fighter, but McKenna knew. He could feel the slack with his own hands and hear the wrong tone when he plucked the loose cables. When a desperate Hayes approached him the night before his fateful mission and begged, "Is there anything you can do to make it roll faster?" "I don't care if it's regulation or not." McKenna saw the face of every lost pilot. He knew he had to act. The engagement over the Huon Gulf was a blur of violence and revelation. Hayes dove on a zero, fired, and missed. The Japanese pilot snap-rolled away, and Hayes instinctively rolled to follow. And that's when he felt it. For the first time, his P-38 responded instantly. There was no lag, no fight. The aircraft rolled with a speed and precision he had never experienced. He closed on the zero, fired again, and watched it spiral down in flames. His first kill. But there was no time to celebrate. Two more zeros dove on him. Trapped, Hayes did the one thing doctrine forbade. He reversed into a turning fight. His modified Lightning snapped around, matching the zeros move for move. The delay was gone. The airplane was an extension of his will. In a furious 30-second battle, he shot down two more enemy aircraft. 3 kills in a single engagement. When Hayes landed, his hands still shaking.
How did you do that, son? That reversal. It is not possible. Talk to McKenna. He'll explain it. It spread like wildfire. Not in memos, not in briefings, but in whispers. Hayes sent me. What did you do to his plane?
A simple fix for a deadly problem. The zeros turn inside us. Now, we can turn inside them. Cut the wire, bend the Z, install it. Don't get caught.
Welcome back, sir.
Good to be here. That modification works.
He walked straight to McKenna and uttered 2 simple, powerful words. It worked. The change did not go unnoticed. Captain Frank Mitchell, a veteran flight leader, had watched the dogfight from above and was stunned by the agility of Hayes's aircraft. He demanded to know the secret. Soon, McKenna was quietly modifying more planes. The innovation spread like wildfire through the ranks, a whispered secret among pilots and mechanics desperate for an edge. They would remove the simple piano wire tensioners before official inspections and reinstall them afterward. The impact was immediate and dramatic. Pilots who had been struggling started scoring kills. The P-38's kill-to-loss ratio, which had been disastrously lopsided, began to even out, then tip in America's favor. The Japanese noticed. Their veteran aces, like the legendary Saburo Sakai, found their tried-and-true tactics suddenly failing. The P-38s were rolling faster, reversing turns with a speed that defied all their previous experience. They were fighting an invisible enemy, a 6-inch piece of wire hidden inside a plane's boom. Japanese intelligence examined wreckage but found nothing. Their confidence, once their greatest weapon, began to crumble. By the end of September, they were ordered to avoid P-38s unless they had a significant numerical advantage. The hunter had become the hunted. The modification was eventually discovered by Lockheed engineers, who tested it and deemed it not only safe, but brilliant, incorporating a similar tensioner into future models. But James McKenna never received official credit. No medal, no commendation. He returned home to Long Beach after the war, opened a garage, and rarely spoke of his service. Robert Hayes survived the war, became an ace, and returned to a long life, calling McKenna every year on August 17th to thank him. Frank Mitchell rose through the ranks, always telling the story of the sergeant who saw what the engineers missed. Historians now estimate that McKenna's unauthorized, desperate act may have saved the lives of 80 to 100 American pilots. It is a powerful reminder that in the crucible of war, innovation doesn't always come from a boardroom. Sometimes it comes from the hands of a dedicated mechanic in a dusty jungle airfield who decided that saving lives was more important than following regulations. If this story of unsung heroism and battlefield innovation resonated with you, we would be grateful if you would like and subscribe to the channel. We are dedicated to unearthing these forgotten chapters of history, and we love hearing from our community. Let us know in the comments where you are joining us from Texas to Tasmania. Every one of you helps keep these vital stories alive. Thank you for watching and for remembering the courage that often happens far from the spotlight.